Hello, real estate world. This is Elena Bartash, your real estate investor. And today, my podcast, as usual, as always, about private money in real estate. And today, I'm extremely lucky because my guest is wonderful lady, mega experienced real estate investor who bought more than 300 properties. Guys, just imagine this number 300 plus. It's something incredible. So her name is Courtney Fricke. Hi, Courtney.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me join you today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being my guest today. And I'm really excited about our podcast because, Courtney, I know you are just huge treasure of knowledge about real estate investment. And let's give people value, please. For those who
Absolutely.
does not know you, could you please tell us a little bit who is Courtney Fricke?
Yeah, sure. Sure thing. So my name is Courtney Fricke. I am a full-time real estate investor. I consider myself a solutions-based investor. And so what that means is if there's not a problem, I'm usually not the right fit. So I'm going to refer that person to someone else who can help them. But generally speaking, my goal has been to find the folks who have some sort of problem tied to real estate and help them as best as I can. Doesn't always mean I buy their house, but I still want to be able to help. And so I've been investing. I've got in the industry in 2014. And so here in 2025, I'm my first changing market. So it's, teaching me a lot. But I have experienced a lot of different things. I'm based out of the New Orleans, Louisiana market. And the majority of what I do today is buy and hold properties, or so it's either my rentals or I buy something to sell on, whether it's seller financing, what we call a bond for deed or a contract for deed or a lease option here in Louisiana. But I've done a ton of flipping, wholesaling, plenty of other things like that over the years. And I like to think that I consider myself a recovering wholesaler and flipper. Every now and then I relapse and still do one, but the majority of what I do today is rentals and selling stuff on financing.
Okay, cool. Very cool introduction. So you start in the beginning, you've done wholesaling, or you started buying right away?
So no, so I started flipping. And so that's how, I bought I didn't wholesale until my third or fourth deal. And so the first few deals were, let's see, it was my third deal that I wholesaled. So but those first few ones were flips, and so that's how I got started, and then I added in wholesaling. So I was still flipping, but I would wholesale here and there as well.
Mhm. Okay, Courtney, how did you start your flips? Did you start with private money or did you use hard money that time?
So great question. When I first got started, really in real estate, my first deal was a live-in flip. So it's a property that
Mhm.
I had, renovated 90% of the way and lived in it. But the way that I got the money to do that first deal was I didn't have any money, nor did I have any credit. So in a very similar boat to a lot of people, I was very limited. But I did have a small inheritance that I got. It was $40,000, which
Mhm.
sounds like a lot, but it's also not a lot, right? In this time, in this world, $40,000 can be hard to buy properties, depending on what market you're in. So I used that $40,000 and I bought a property that was a fixer upper, and it was a short sale. So they were facing foreclosure, so we had to negotiate with the bank to get a reduced price. And so, but it got in a bidding war, and I remember we bought it for 40,100, and I was sweating during the bidding war because I was like, I don't have much outside after the 40,000, so I could swing the $100, additional. So I bought that, and then I used some other creative methods for the renovation. I used a credit card to do the renovations. And if I paid it off within 2 years, it was 0% interest.
Oh,
So
wow.
once I renovated it, again, I renovated 90%, moved into it. And so I now have, it was a condo. I have a condo that's free and clear. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was still working full time. And so I got a home equity line of credit from the bank. And that's the only time
Mm-hmm.
I've ever gone to the bank. And that line of credit, they gave me a $60,000 line of credit. So I'm 45,000 into the property. They immediately gave me a $60,000 line of credit, and I used that to buy, deals 2, 4, 5, something like that. So a few of my next deals now, because that's only a limited amount, I would have to buy one deal, finish the deal, sell it, stuff like that. And so I was like, that's not going to cut it. So then I learned how to use private money from people in my that I knew. And so true private money from individuals who have money they want to put to use. So I started doing that again for my flips. And so that's really how I got started, was first with, the cash that I had and the credit card hack, and then private money for the next handful of deals as well.
Oh, this is actually, you just touched base, great topic. So you started working with people who are really individuals, really private money lenders. So did you had that time people who had experience as in lenders, or you just invited them as in totally newbie lenders?
They so all I don't know if I can say this. No, not all of my lenders, but the majority of my lenders come to me having never lent before. And
Mm,
I create them out of my relationships. So they're not coming to me saying I want to lend. They're a relationship that I cultivate into a relationship where they want to lend to me. Very rarely do I have someone who's actually, they were lending before they came to me.
mhm, mhm. Okay, could you please open up a little bit your secrets? So what is your strategy building relationship with your potential lenders?
So that's a great question. So number one, networking is huge. So one of the things I did was I started the local real estate investor meetup in my area. So I live in New Orleans. I started the meetup in the suburbs of New Orleans, and so I started that. So every month I'm scheduling speakers, and I had it to where putting in all the effort of having a meetup, um, and I have met three three or four private money lenders through that. And
Mm,
so
it's
one,
awesome.
it's stuff along those lines, right? So here's the thing that really helped with that is every month I was there pitting on those meetings. It's a very thankless job. It's a very, administratively, tasked job. But what happened? People got to know who I was, because every month I'm showing up and I'm introducing the speaker. I'm, giving the announcements. And so networking was huge. And when you don't have an opportunity, similar to myself, a lot of the meetups in the area were not doing well. So I created
Mhm.
one. Um,
Good.
so there's that part, but then I'm a big fan of getting out there and just being consistent and
Mhm.
showing up, um, and building relationships. So when you talk with someone, say, "Hey, I'd love to go get coffee with you or have lunch with you, or let's go for a walk, or hey, I'm going to call you next week," or something like that, to continue the relationship. So many people, they think networking is standing in a room. I was like, I have some cards here, but I'm gonna hide them. Like, you just stand in the room with your business cards, thinking that,
Yeah.
standing in the corner, that is called networking. No. And I don't even have cards anymore. I usually, take that person's phone and put my phone number into it.
Mhm.
Um, there there's got to be intention. And so I'm always looking for ways to build relationships. To give you an idea, one of my newest private money lenders, my spouse works in oil and gas, so as an engineer. And so we go to a lot of work parties. I know that engineers make six figures. Okay.
Yep.
Like their first job is, easily 110, 115,000. And for 4 years now, I've been getting to know a lot of engineers. And, so they've heard stories of, from my spouse about, my real estate stuff. And so usually at the
Mhm.
usually at the cookout or the work event, they ask me some questions. And so I just after 4 years of spending time with them, I just have my first one who's lending on a deal.
Yeah, this is time.
Yeah, well, so it's and we've been talking about it for a year and a half now. So it takes time, it takes building relationships. And when they see that you are consistent, when they see that you are competent, and when they see that you are trustworthy, they're more open, to part, in essence, partnering with you, and trusting you with their money. Because if you're inconsistent, they forget what you do.
Hmm.
If if
Yeah.
you're not competent, if they don't know if you could get the job done, well, they would be nervous to lend the money, right? And if you're not trustworthy, again, they're nervous again. And so, if you're competent but not trustworthy, that doesn't work. And if you're
Hmm.
trustworthy but not competent, that's also hard too. And so I find that if I'm all three of those, trustworthy and competent, but then when you're consistent, then that has led to the consistency, the intention, me being intentional with building relationships. That has led to you know numerous relationships being created where folks want to lend me money on my deal.
Yeah, just be patient and consistent. Patient and consistent. Keep showing up. Yeah, I like your story. I
Mhm,
like your story. So, Courtney, when you said you started with fix and flips, right? And then you started buy and hold,
mhm.
right? So,
Yes.
what other strategy mostly you were focusing that time? What kind of buy and hold? What did you implement?
So when I was um, flipping and wholesaling a lot, I got burned out because I realized that I got into real estate for financial freedom and time freedom. But flipping and wholesaling is a job. In essence, I started a business and replaced my job, with a job I bought, So
Mhm.
that wasn't giving me time freedom and financial freedom. So then I said, man,
Mhm.
I need to start keeping properties. And I wish I
Yep.
would have sooner because I waited for a few
Mhm.
years before I started keeping rentals. So then I just kept anything that would pencil out as a deal. And so I have owned a lot of different properties over the years. I have owned in 15 different counties in Louisiana, we call them parishes in 2 states. I've owned
Mhm.
single families. I've owned, single families with bullet holes in the side of them, and then single families that are, uh, a step below luxury in my area. Um, I
Mhm.
have I have owned mobile home parks, and I have owned trailers, mobile homes on land. I have owned small multifamily, and some commercial, and some land as well, and stuff like that. So, I early on, if I could make sense of the numbers, I was buying it.
Okay. So, can you say you got this level of freedom already?
Today, I could retire with financial, freedom from the amount of properties I own. But here's the problem: is it would be a mistake for me to retire today, and it would be a mistake because I did not care about quality of what I bought. I only cared about quantity. And I was kind of sharing with you beforehand, I learned from what I respectfully called my gray haired mentors. All of my
Mhm.
mentors are in their 70s. Okay. So, and they're still actively doing deals. They've been doing deals since the 60s and the 70s. And so, 50, 60 plus years of experience. And something
Oh,
they really
wow.
taught me, you know, They're still doing deals today. Something they taught me is that, the type of property you own attracts the tenant that will
Mhm.
live. Um, that, you don't need hundreds of properties, right? And, you just need a handful of really good properties, and that
Mhm.
truly can be enough. And so for me, my problem was I bought quantity, and
Yep.
a lot of those properties are not the types of properties I want to have in the portfolio that I retire with. So I am not allowing myself to retire. And I'll be honest, I lacked clarity. My biggest issue was I did not have clarity for many years when I was
Mhm.
just buying, anything and everything. And so I now feel like I have a strong sense of clarity. And
Mhm.
of the 60 properties I have right now, only 6 fit that clarity, so 10%. So I've got to cut the fat of that 90%, sell them, trade them, exchange them, sell them on financing, anything like that. And I still have some more buying to do to get more of those quality properties that I want.
Mhm. You just spoke about great topic, Courtney, and I read through all your speech mindset. So clarity of what you want to do, what you want to achieve, right? What kind of properties you want to buy, where you want to buy, who will be your tenant. So what kind of a mental shift did you achieve during these years? What did you get mostly? What is the most important? You said clarity. Yes, it's absolutely important. What else?
So, what I mean by clarity is who is my ideal client? So, clients for us are
Mhm.
tenants. And so,
Mhm.
I cannot specifically say who is my ideal tenant. And that doesn't mean the person who has cash, right? For me, I am looking for someone who is maybe, blue collar management, or, so my ideal property is built 1990 or newer. So
Mhm.
relatively young property, right? It is
Mhm.
in the best school districts, and
Okay.
I want it to have a anchor in the area. So maybe the school districts may be an anchor, like a from elementary all the way up to high school, to where if someone
Mhm.
moves in, they don't want to leave because their kids are going through the whole school system. Maybe
Mhm.
there's a
Oh,
church,
so very
you
smart.
know, maybe there's a big church, or maybe something, something that keeps them in the area. The other thing is minimum 3 bedroom, 2 bath, minimum 1,500 square feet. And I cap that out. I don't want 5 bedrooms. I don't want anything over 2,500 square feet. So it's very, I have an actual, um, idea of what that property looks like. And in New
Mhm.
Orleans, the average house is worth 275.
Okay.
That's our average price point. I like to buy between 250 and around 250 to 450. And so
Mhm.
and it's mostly in the 250 to 375 range is where most
Mhm.
of my properties are. Um but that clarity, where if a deal comes to me and it's a
Mhm.
1960s house. The other important thing is it's in a preferred flood zone. We have flooding problems
Yep.
down.
Oh,
So, but
yep.
if a
Yep.
house comes to me and it's a 1960s 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,200 square feet, and it might only be worth 180, 200, it's not that I'm not going to do the deal, but if I do the deal, it may not be something I own for a long time. So
Mhm.
I'm looking to maybe step into a lot of equity, and then I can
Mhm.
use that equity for some other reason later on. And so I call my nice houses in nice neighborhoods, I call that my legacy portfolio. And I want 25 of them. and everything
Mm-hmm.
else is a supporting member, supporting cast. So, you've got the main cast members, right? And then you've got all the supporting cast. So if I do a deal, I bought, like, for example, I bought a house 2 years ago that is a 1980s, you know, um, property, but I bought it subject to the existing loan, and I
Mm-hmm.
sold it on a lease option, and I bought that September of 2022, and we just sold it and walked away with $87,000. So that property, that 87, we can now use that to buy another property. We can use that to pay down some of the debt
Mm-hmm.
on some of our properties. We can use it to improve, repairs and stuff. And so that wasn't a legacy property for me, but it could still help me be a means to an end to help with the main goals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, from everything you just told me, I got you do long-term rentals. So your tenants are families, right? You rent out your properties for a long time. You don't do
So
any co-living, no short-term.
So I do have two midterm rentals, but I'm an investor, not a business person. So I do not lean towards the models that are very business centric. So the
Mm-hmm.
co-living, the short-term rentals, anything like that, that is more of a business model. And I am not seeking to be a business person. I'm seeking to be an investor.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I prefer I do have two midterm rentals, but those are I don't want to convert all my other properties into midterm rentals.
Okay. Okay, I see. And you said clarity. So how important your clarity for your lenders?
For my private money lenders, as far as the clarity
Yes.
that I have,
Yes.
I think
Yes.
it really helps give them confidence because when people when you lack clarity, you chase anything and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when you chase anything and everything, I mean, you see people. Well, let me say it this way. If I set out a goal to dig a hole and I want to dig all the way to China,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great goal. People who don't have clarity, they said, "Oh, I'm going to start digging." And they start digging, then they stop and they move over and they start digging there. They stop and they go, "Oh, let me go move over there." Well, a lot of times clarity is really distraction. And so
Mm-hmm.
once I've gotten very focused, that is something I
Mm-hmm.
think brings confidence to my private lenders because distraction can also lead to pain because when you get distracted, think about when you're a distracted driver, right? Because you're
Mm-hmm.
you're doing a very important task. You're driving a car, maybe driving fast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you get distracted, you could what? You could wreck the car and get into an accident.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing something very important with real estate, right? And a lot of times we might be going fast. We're using a lot of money to do so. And so I a, an important part of clarity is that I believe that the opposite of shiny object syndrome
Mm-hmm.
is clarity. Not just, and I guess you could say, focus is a similar word, but and I believe that can bring a level of protection with it because when someone is uh, unclear or unfocused, even if they
Mm-hmm.
bring in a private money lender, it may speak to are they competent, you know, um, and you know that's something I want my investors to feel is that when they lend on deals with me, I want them to feel. I say that private money is like a horse. Real estate is like a horse. And everyone understands that real estate is like a purebred horse that is gonna win the race.
Mm-hmm.
It's destined to do really well. I mean, for, um, hundreds, if not thousands of years, people have built wealth with real estate. But many people do not want to be the jockey on top of the horse doing the work. And so I say that my private
Mhm.
money lenders believe in the, real estate, but they see me as the jockey who's doing the work. And so by
Mhm.
being clarity and having, that sense of focus brings confidence. So if you went to the, and I don't bet on horses, so I don't know what this looks like, but if you learned that horse jockey did this
Mhm.
part-time, maybe they were, running late because they were coming from another job. And do you think someone's going to place a bet on that day? I'm not saying you can't be part-time or anything like that, but if they don't feel that jockey is clear and focused,
Mhm.
um like, oh, I know that guy. He was just driving race cars the other day. He was just doing this the other day. Um, and so that's my hope, is that I help sow confidence for my private money
Mhm.
lenders through that clarity.
Yeah, it's great. Great association with horses. I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Yep. Oh, I have a question. So, do you teach your lenders how to run numbers, how to underwrite property? Do they need it?
Yes and no. Each lender is different. I've had lenders tell me, Courtney, I trust you. Like, I don't need. I'm like, they're like, I don't need to know. I'm like, no, no, don't ever tell anyone that. I'm going to give you an overview of the property and the situation. But um so not always. I have had plenty of my lenders attend real estate investing conferences with me, workshops, investor meetups, not for, you know, necessarily them to invest in, a rental or something, but to understand my deals better.
Mhm.
And so there's been a level of that. But when I share a deal with one of my private money lenders, I share pretty much a one-page breakdown of what
Mhm.
all they need to know. And then if they have any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Okay, so it looks like a session, right? Maybe Zoom session. You share your screen, just show you on the right calculator, and you bring them through the numbers with explanation what every number means.
Not even
Correct?
that. Not even that.
No?
No.
Oh, so
I've only ever
tell me
done
how
that.
what are you doing?
I've only ever done one Zoom session, and it was a more of a presentation, because it was a family from upstate, well, not even upstate New York, but New York. And it was an entire family, parents, the grown children
Mhm.
that wanted to invest with me. And so I created my first presentation for them. And I just shared 3 examples of deals. So no calculators, no spreadsheets, just PowerPoints with a little bit about
Mhm.
myself, how I do business, so my model, and 3 examples
Mhm.
of deals where people have lent to me. I I
Mhm.
have never showed a private money lender spreadsheet or a calculator before. It is usually a one-page PDF that I send to them with information.
Mhm. Hmm. See, so interesting because everyone does something own, something unique. I know people who create massive pitch decks with 5, 7 pages with very detailed explanation, but you said you
Mhm,
never do it. And lenders really never requested anything like this.
mhm. So sometimes they have questions, absolutely. But we start with that one page and answer. Now, the one time I added some additional paperwork, it
Mhm.
was when it was my mobile home park, so a commercial property, but it was just some more information about the area, and uh and then the overall plan of what I was doing with the property.
Mhm. Oh
but
my gosh.
nothing is maybe 2, 3 pages.
Hmm. Yeah, this is a level of trust they feel towards you. Yep.
Now remember, the majority of my lenders are not professional lenders. So they're individuals.
Yep.
And I want to make it very simple for them to understand. And
Hmm.
so if I had to, so it is almost always in person. It is rarely like over a computer.
Hmm.
So when we're in person, I may pull out my laptop and say, "Hey, you see on this one page that I emailed you?" Or maybe it's just an email that I sent them. If they have questions, "Hey, let's pull it up. Let's pull it up on, Redfin or something." And I don't ever want to rob them of an informed decision. But at
Hmm.
the same time, we usually have a lot of conversations leading up to the first deal. And then when we do the first deal, I share about the deal, I share about the property,
Hmm.
and then I also share and I remind them of their security, that they're going to get a first mortgage and a
Hmm.
note, that they're going to get a lender's title policy, they're going to be named on insurance. If it's a deal that I'm buying with a subject to loan and they're going to lend in second position, I explain
Hmm.
to them. I explained to them the first that I bought subject to, and more information like that too.
Yeah, it's very important to be honest and transparent, right? Secondly, not everyone understands it, but all you need just explain to people, and they really do need to take this decision. Are they ready to feel this level of comfort or to be out of their comfort, right? Just to be honest and transparent.
Exactly. And I work very hard at my reputation. I think one of the things I have ever spent the most money on has been my reputation. And what I mean by that, it's, you know, spending time and money and energy into building a good name for myself. And which is why there's plenty of times I've actually I've lost opportunities to make money because I refused
Mhm.
because I did not want to tarnish my good reputation, right? And so all of those things are important. Most of my private money lenders come from, my reputation that I've built. And so I'm generally buying based on credibility, and they just want to make sure the deal makes sense. But it's a it is it's not a big pitch deck.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess you just started really deep conversation about reputation, and we cannot be. I mean, we have to predict and we have to understand that this deal is not the last one. And if we will get this lender without understanding how we will move this relationship forward, right? Without clarity, I love this word, clarity, how we can structure deal next in 1 year, in 2 year, right? What the plan B do we have for this property, just in case?
Mhm. So something that's also important is, and I've got two favorite quotes. One of them, it's by Dr. Brene Brown. She's a very famous author. A lot of people love her. She said, "To be clear is to be kind." And so if
Mhm.
you think in the opposite, to be unclear is to be unkind. So
Yeah.
this is really important because when we're having a conversation, I said, "Look, in the event that you do want to lend me some money, maybe on one of my next rentals, let's talk about what that means." And so one, I want it to be clear that they can understand it. I try to use very limited real estate words because most of them, they're either not currently, they're not professional lenders, right? And so, but then if they don't ask me certain questions, I will say, "Hey, you haven't asked this yet, but it's a question we should cover. What happens if I don't pay? And let's talk through it. Because some people can just say, "Oh, I got through this conversation and they didn't ask me what to do if if I defaulted, that scary conversation." No. I tackle it straight on. And I make sure we have that conversation, and I make sure that we so something that people often are surprised, a lot of my private money loans are for 30 years. Now, they may have a 10-year balloon on some of them, but the majority of my stuff is long-term stuff because I'm not looking to be a flipper. You wanna be careful. A Back in the '70s, a guy by the name of, Jimmy Napier said the words that, "Balloons are for clowns," and so I like to say balloons are for clowns and special occasions. So, I'm gonna be very hesitant to put in a short balloon. Doesn't mean I don't have them, but I generally am going to have them, especially further, if they're like, "Hey, let's do 5 years," I'll say, "Okay." Or, 3 to 5 years, I'll put them on one of those deals like I explained that I bought 2 years ago and we just sold. I will put them on a deal like that I know I don't wanna keep forever. And then
Yep,
they get
yep.
their
It's
money back.
interesting. And interesting, you mentioned in the beginning you are advocate of quality instead of quantity. So what kind of lesson did you get through all your journey in real estate? What means quality? Yeah, you described a little bit already. You said in schools, right? And you want to understand they will go through all this circle from middle school, high school. Yeah, you want them to stay with you longer. So what else? What else means for you good property? What you pay attention on?
So, I like younger properties. So for me, an I'm looking for better properties in great areas. Okay, so this year I bought a 2021 build. So this house is 4 years old. So that is
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great area, and it's right next to where there's a port that they're going to do $2 billion worth of expansions. So a lot of growth in the area. Another thing, what do I mean by quality? If you look at the value of a property, I am constantly looking for an area where the value of the land is a bigger percentage of the value of the home. What does that mean? It
Mm-hmm.
means that is a desirable location. And so my friends who are in Florida, some of their properties, the land is worth more than half of what the house is worth. And so, if it burns down, think about the safety you can provide a lender that if worst case scenario happens, you still have land, that's worth a significant amount. There is some security in that. And so
And
that
where,
is
how do you? Mhm.
that is
Go ahead.
something
Sorry. Go.
when I think about quality, I am looking for better locations, more desirable areas. I don't want the most expensive house. So I do cap the value, but I'm looking for the neighborhoods that people want to be in because of the school, the community, maybe the church, something like that. And it's a neighborhood that people want to be in, but maybe there's not a lot of rentals in that neighborhood. I want something like that because when that rental becomes available, hey, everyone else in this neighborhood owns, and I want to be in that school district. I want to be in that neighborhood. It then makes it easier to rent.
Yeah, you need to know so much, and everything comes from experience, and it's so good in front of lenders. Experience, 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 reputation.
Yeah. See, I don't want my lenders to stay up at night afraid that the deal is going to go wrong. I
Yep.
want I want my lenders, if anything, for them to stay up at night hoping it goes wrong because they will get a very great house for a really good deal. So, not that I want anyone to lose sleep, but I want them to feel comfort in the position that they're in and that they feel that I'm keeping them safe. So I said earlier, so the other quote, and I usually actually have this on a shirt, and it says, "How you do real estate matters." So that's both from a technical side. So, the paperwork that I'm protecting them, with a
Mhm.
lien against title. Um, I talk to them about my estate planning situation. If I get hit by a bus, let me introduce you to my spouse who's not in real estate. Let me,
Mhm.
uh, the how is the technical. I have asked my private money lenders, do you have a will? Do you have estate planning? I don't need to know what it says, but who's the attorney or the person in your family that I need to call? Because what if you're lending to me for, 15 years and on year 6, my lender gets hit by the proverbial bus and they die? I want to make sure
Yep.
that their family is taken care of and they continue to get those payments. So the
Yep.
technical side is important. The paperwork, how you structure the deal, and then but it also is the other side is it's how you treat people. It's the fact that I don't have to care about, their estate planning, but I care because I don't want this to be the only deal we do, and I consider them ally. I want both parties to benefit, and so I am looking out in their best interest. So I am talking about, the difficult things like default and death. And I'm saying, "Hey, how can we mitigate against it so that all parties involved are protected?" And they
Mhm.
truly believe I'm operating in their best interest. And I
Mhm.
genuinely try to do so.
Yep. Great. And can we talk a little bit, Courtney, more about default situation? So how do you handle it, and how do you explain people? So
So so
what should be your next steps, or how you're going to act in case of default?
so do you want me to tell what I tell private money lenders, or do you want me to is that what, like, how I explain it to them?
I mean, what are the reality? Yes, yes. How do you explain to them? How do you build this type of dialogue with lenders? Yep.
Yeah. So I tell them, I say, as much as, I'm running and gunning and doing things, as much as I do my best to be safe, I want to be here too. If I got hit by the proverbial bus, let's talk about what would happen. Number one,
Mhm.
I give them the name of my attorney that has my estate planning paperwork and all that. Number
Mhm.
two, now, recently I got married, so I introduced them to my spouse. I've invited them to my house. They're really someone that they are uh, I treat my private money lenders in a level of where I'm like, "Hey, I want to get to know your family. I want you to get to know mine." Right? And then I explain to them the way I have my accounting set up is that I have an account, what I call debt service, in my bank account. And our so my goal is for every property, it's to have 3 months worth of payments. So if a monthly payment is 1,000, I want for that property, I want to have $3,000 in that account. If
Always. Mhm.
I have 60
Mhm.
properties, I want to have with $1,000 a month, I want to have, the 60,000 at $1,000
Mhm.
times, 3 months worth. So that says,
Yep.
hey, and when we set up those auto payments, we want to make sure that that account, if something happens, we have at least 3 months for the estate planning to kick in.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
and it should kick in automatically, with, my family knows what to do, my attorney knows what to do. But at the same time, that is a buffer that I tell them that, we absolutely we build towards in, because one of my founding, like one of my not my founding, but one of my core beliefs is I use other people's money to buy properties and to play offense, right? To
Mhm.
get another property. But I use my money, the money that comes from the rentals, the money that comes from the properties I sell on seller financing, or the
Mhm.
occasional wholesale or flip that I still do. I use that money to play defense. So that I've had rental property since 2018,
Mhm.
I, something like that, and I have not paid myself for my rentals since. I am not looking to. I don't. I want my rentals to stand on their own, and I
Mhm.
don't need that money right now. And so I am letting them feed themselves right now. And
Mhm.
so when I explain, you know, default, for example, a tenant moves out, some common reasons,
Yep.
tenants move out, it takes longer for a
Mhm.
property to rent, it takes longer for a property to sell. Well, what happens? That will generally eat up some of those 3 months, right? And so then I have to replenish it eventually, right? So we talk about those things. And I've only ever had one property where, now none of us are immune to deals not going correct, especially right now.
Mhm.
It's one of the number one things I'm seeing is deals going wrong right now. And a lot of investors are
Why
calling
why do you think why do you think it happens right now? What's the reason?
because the market is changing. And so with the market changing, a lot of plans sounded really good 2 years ago, but they may not be
Mhm.
going according to that plan. There's a lot of people who bought deals with only a little bit of margin. And
Mhm.
so if it is a great deal and something happens that you cannot control, the insurance crisis,
Yep.
the market taking longer, it goes from a great deal to a good deal, right?
Yep.
Well, the numbers were really great, but they're only a little great right now. But if you bought a good deal, so not a great deal, but just a good deal, negative, or no equity or only a little equity,
Mhm.
or negative or no or a little bit of cash flow, that and something happens outside of your control, the market, insurance crisis, interest rates, whatever, that good deal then goes to a bad deal. And so we're seeing a lot of people who
Mhm.
believe the lie that, a good deal was enough, that the market was always going to improve.
Mhm.
Um, and so we're seeing a lot of those good deals turn to bad deals.
So what is the trend do you see right now on the market? The most bright trends? How market changes right now? What do you think?
I'm most paying attention to consumer confidence, because
Mhm.
I don't necessarily care about interest rates, although I do pay attention to interest rates. I don't, you know, I care about transaction volume. Are people willing to pull the trigger to go rent? Are they willing to pull the trigger to go and buy? All of that's really
Mhm.
important to me. And so I'm paying attention to that. Um, and then, I'm also paying attention to what are the big threats. So in my area in Louisiana, it's the insurance crisis. So that's
Mm.
a very important situation. I have had properties go up $900 a month because of insurance.
Oh. Mm.
That is more than most people's cash flow, right? So, and I'm seeing a lot of people go into foreclosure because of such issues. And then I'm also paying attention to regulation.
Mhm.
So those are probably the three biggest things I'm paying attention to. It's consumer confidence. What are buyers out there doing? Right. And then I'm paying attention to the like insurance industry and what all is happening because that's most impacting my area. And then I'm paying attention
Mhm.
to any regulation because so currently right now, New Orleans is considering to ban all short-term rentals, all of them,
Mhm.
commercially zoned, residentially zoned. Well, even though I don't have short-term rentals, will that impact my long-term rentals? Yes. There's there's other rentals in my area that are going to now, maybe flood the market,
Mhm.
and so what is that going to look like? So I'm paying attention to those things.
Mhm. Yeah, such a great conversation. Thank you so much, Courtney. So probably we have a couple minutes left. It's almost 1 hour podcast and great podcast. I appreciate all your information, Courtney, and I believe uh, you can give even more value to people. We can do this podcast 2 hours, 3 hours, and I have so many questions left. But I know I should appreciate your time and I should value time. Really, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Time is money, as we say, right? And you
Yeah. Well,
deserve to
look,
get rest.
yeah, I appreciate you for spending time with me, and it's a good conversation.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree, Courtney. Thank you so much. And as in conclusion, you know, to be honest, I'm kind of newbie. I'm in real estate 1 year, and I have so many people around me who don't take action, who feel afraid, who feel scary, who doesn't know what to do. You're such experienced lady, 300 plus properties. It's something incredible. And I pretty much know and believe you made tons of mistakes and you learned lots of from these mistakes. So what is the biggest advice you would like to give to people who really somewhere in the beginning, who needs some golden nugget, some motivation, extra motivation? Just please give these people some extra motivation.
Yeah. So I would encourage you to find someone who's doing something in real estate that you want to do, someone who you would want to trade places for, not because of the car they drive or, their social media presence, but because of, the real estate side, right? And find out what got them there, right? And it's usually a combination of the same consistent efforts, making offers, talking to sellers, right? Walking properties, things like that. And go and put in the consistent action and don't give up. So many people they're not willing to put in the reps. And I don't care if you buy one property a year, you are doing better than most people. But most people, they want to buy one property a week, and because that is too uh laborsome, they don't take the effort. And so most people would do well with just find one great deal and buy it. One property a year would be life changing. And so go take the action. You can't buy a property a year or whatever your goal is if you're not out there talking to sellers, walking properties, and making offers. And so if you're consistently doing those things, you know, if you can put in those reps and then if you can stay in the game, you have to have that focus to, some people say, "Oh, I've been doing this for 3 months. I've been doing this for 6 months and I haven't reached my goal." Look, I've been doing this for over 10 years and more than half of my success has come from just staying put. I've wanted to quit more times than I can count, but it is because I've stayed. I said, "You know what? This tough day is going to pass." I've gotten through plenty of hard days and I'm thankful that I'm still here. So, put in the reps, take that consistent action, and then stay in the same area, right? When you keep jumping around, think back to that digging that hole to China. If you start digging to China, but then you get up and go and start digging a hole over there, you're going to be still be digging. So it's busy work, but it's not going toward your goal. So find the work that's tied to your goal and put in the consistent effort and keep building that deep hole with the consistent reps of doing taking action. And again, it doesn't have to be where you buy 100 properties a year. Most people would do well buying just a few houses a year, and and then letting time do the beautiful thing that it does, which is, the benefits of time. And so I would also encourage people to, as soon as you can, start keeping properties, and getting that time started. But yeah.
Beautiful advice. Thank you so much, Courtney.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
You are definitely treasure. You are definitely. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for all your time, for all your golden nuggets, for all beautiful words you shared with people. It's very important for everyone to listen to you, to get something from your experience, from your openness. It's great. Thank you so much, Courtney, for everything you just gave to us and to us who are right now with us and who will be watching us in the future, because we will have this podcast on my YouTube channel. And people, you see, Courtney is full of experience. I'm going to leave Courtney's Facebook link under this video. And please, if Courtney, you don't mind, I would encourage people to reach out to you if they will need some advice or some questions.
Yeah, I'm happy to help. I just always ask for patience as I work to respond to messages.
Yeah, thank you so much. I believe we all understand how busy you are.
Mhm. Been my
Thank you so
pleasure.
much again, Courtney. I appreciate and I'm grateful for everything you did for us today.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, bye bye. Bye bye, Courtney. Thank you so much for everyone who've been today with us. I told you it will be blast. It was blast. It was such a cool podcast. My gosh, I love it. I just love it when I got chance to meet someone really cool, experience it, and very important, open go giver who is able to give this information. I love it. I just so excited. Okie dokie, guys. So it was almost 1 hour podcast. I am still investor. I'm still beginner. I'm still hunting for my next deal. And if you are a real estate investor and you're interested to build relationship with a fast growing investor, please reach out to me. I will leave my links under this video. And please, guys, don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful business, everyone.